Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic movie review. This is my review of the 1968 science fiction classic Planet of the Apes, the very first movie from 1968 that stars Charlton Heston, directed by Franklin J. Schaffner. And this movie is based on a novel written by Pierre Bouillet, I believe. Um, the screenplay was adapted by Rod Serling of The Twilight Zone and co-adapted with Michael Wilson. And of course, Jerry Goldsmith did the score for this movie, and it's one of the all-time great classic movie scores in my opinion. The music during the opening credits during the beginning, it's perfect for setting the mood, and just feels right. It has that perfect amount of suspense and ambiguity and mystery, and he's great. Jerry Goldsmith, rest in peace. One of the great ones. I think he's up there with John Williams and Danny Elfman and Hans Zimmer, in my opinion. If you grew up going to the movies back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and if the music wasn't done by John Williams or Bill Conti or Alan Silvestri or Hans Zimmer or James Horner, chances are it was probably done by Jerry Goldsmith, who did some of the greatest movies like Total Recall and First Blood and Rambo 2 and 3 and the first Alien movie and Air Force One and he's Star Trek, and so yeah, he's got a great list of respectable movies under his belt. So the movie begins, and the very first thing that we see is space from the point of view of the inside of a windshield of a ship, and slowly kind of zooms out, and we see Charlton Heston's character Taylor, and he's speaking, recording something, so that there's some kind of log before he lays down into this sleeping chamber thing and closes it up, and then he goes into hypersleep, and then we get the really cool, trippy opening credit sequence, the really cool music by Jerry Goldsmith I was just talking about, and then opening credit sequence ends, and then the movie really starts, and we're with the astronauts when they wake up from their long sleep, and as it turns out, something goes wrong. They end up crash landing. They realize they don't see any signs of life, so they start searching for signs of life on this mysterious planet. And they first see a little plant, a little sign of life there, and then they keep going further and then find more greenery. And then, to their surprise, actually find a lake and really beautiful waterfalls. And they get cleaned up, they go swimming, they have a little bit of fun, and then pretty soon they realize they're not alone when they realize somebody has taken some of their clothes that they left on the rocks. And so they come out of the water, and they go out a bit further and see a crowd of kind of subhumans. They're dressed in like rags. They look like cavemen, basically. They can't talk. They don't really say anything. They just kind of grunt. All of a sudden, it gets even a little more exciting as the music is perfect in punctuating that moment when into the frame comes an ape on top of a horse holding a rifle, and a lot of them come through the bushes, and they start killing and capturing all kinds of humans that are there. And Taylor gets shot in the neck, and Taylor goes to the ape jail, and they don't really know what to do with him at first because it doesn't look like he's going to survive at first, and because he's wounded in the neck, they already assume that he isn't going to say anything like all the other humans already there, that they're familiar with, that they don't talk at all, but he's wounded in the neck, so he's unable to do anything or say anything like he normally would. The makeup effects in this film by Dan Strebeck and company for the Apes is very well done for 1968 in my personal opinion, and I know that by today's standards it really doesn't hold a candle in terms of the advancement, or it's nowadays the effects are better in many ways, but for this movie I think it works, especially for the time period, what they were able to accomplish. I am a fan of this franchise, though I have to admit that I haven't seen all of the films, especially all the old classic films like the sequels to this original film, but I really do love this movie. I saw it after I saw the 2001 Tim Burton remake, which I have to admit I also like. I'm sorry, I'm a Tim Burton fan, and Tim Roth as a villain is always fun to watch. So, I admit I enjoy that movie. But the last three movies they came out with that Matt Reeves directed the last two, that was a really good trilogy. So, I enjoy these movies, and whether it's the CGI versions or, the people we get in the costumes, either way, I kind of roll with it. I haven't seen that many of Charlton Heston's movies, I have to admit. I've only seen the Ten Commandments because back in the day, you watched that movie every year around Easter time when you were a kid with your family. I did have a hard time getting through Ben-Hur as a kid, but later on, as I got older, I finally saw it in its entirety and come to appreciate it, especially for that great chariot race. Definitely one of the greatest action sequences in all of film. Charlton Heston is awesome, not just for Planet of the Apes, in my opinion, but for his appearance in Wayne's World 2. The Gordon Street scene, his little cameo, to me is one of the main attractions of Wayne's World 2, in my opinion. I love that scene. Me and my cousin watched that over and over again. Such a great moment. In the film, a scientist ape, a female, Dr. Zero, takes an interest in Taylor and calls him Bright Eyes and notices that he's struggling to communicate, and eventually he's able to eventually get healed a little bit and starts to speak, and he does communicate through trying to write notes and stuff, and they even have a little hearing with the apes, the head apes there, that they want to decide what to do with him because they consider him kind of a threat since he is human. Dr. Zira and her husband Cornelius kind of stand up for Taylor and defend him from everybody as they try to make a case that he's the very proof that there's something more to all the legends that they already have about humans, and that he might debunk some of those. Of course, all of this is considered heresy and treason by the council, the head people there, and Dr. Zaius, who is the one that runs everything there, who is basically the villain of the movie. And eventually, there is some back and forth tug of war between the apes there and Taylor as he gets more aggressive as he heals. Eventually, there's that great moment where Taylor escapes and he's running through the ape city, and then they recapture him. And when they recapture him, he gets super pissed off and yells that great line, "Get your paws off me, you damn dirty ape!" And they realize, holy crap, this human actually talks. And Dr. Zaius starts to really have some reservations about having this guy around, and it gets even more interesting later on to the point where I don't even want to spoil anything for anyone that hasn't seen this movie, even though this movie is very much one of those movies that has been talked about and spoiled for many people because everybody knows, even people that don't watch movies kind of already heard the end of this movie, which used to be one of the all-time great surprises in movies and one of the best movie twists in cinema history. But yeah, if you go into completely cold, if you are into sci-fi movies, and if you haven't seen any of these films, and if you haven't heard anything about the ending, then I highly, highly envy you because first time I watched this, I had already seen the 2001 remake, so I already kind of read things about it, so I kind of already knew about it, and really regretted already knowing when I saw it. But even when I watched it, even though I already knew what was going to happen, it still thrilled me. And I hope it does the same for anyone that gives this a chance. Anyone that's a science fiction fan, if you're into movies, I highly recommend you check this out. This is one of the greatest science fiction classics in my opinion, and I give it 4 stars. And there's a bunch of sequels to this, and of course, they kept making movies that are still being made. I think they're working on some new ones. Definitely check out Planet of the Apes from 1968. It is one of the great movies that you must check out. That's my copy of the Blu-ray. Can be found on streaming, but hard copies are out there, and I recommend. So, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to comment, share, like. If you haven't already, subscribe, hit that bell for more videos, and look out for more classic movie reviews. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care.